Okay, so what we're talking about today is worksheet 40, which is circles. And yesterday I worked problems 1, 2, and 3, but Sarah, I don't think you were here yesterday morning, and Shanterica, you came in a little bit late. So I'm going to go over those first three first, and then we'll pick up with number 4 and go from there. And if you don't have this handout, it's okay because I've got it on the website, and also I'm going to go over the answers for everything with y'all. So you'll have all the answers by the time we're finished. So a couple of things that I want to give you a little bit of a refresher on. We are going to pretend every time I draw a circle that it's a perfect circle, even though they're not, because the things that I'm going to teach you about are going to work with perfect circles only, and that's exactly the kind of thing that you're going to see on the test is perfect circles. So every circle has a center point. That's going to be our center point. And I can draw a line from that center point out to any edge, and all of those purple lines are going to be the same length, okay? Those purple lines are what's known as the radius. The radius means it goes from the center out to one edge, okay? So that's all a radius is from the center to one edge. Now I'm going to draw some blue lines, but those blue lines are going to go all the way from one edge to the other edge, and they're going to go through the center. These blue lines are the same length as each other. It doesn't matter where I draw it, where it starts and where it ends, because they're going to have the same length. Those blue lines that go from one end to the other are called the diameter. The radius is 1/2 of the diameter. So if I take this dot here and I go to the center, that's a radius. But if I keep going out to the other edge there, then it would be a diameter. So radius is 1/2 of your diameter, which means that the diameter is 2 times the radius, okay? That's going to be really important in a few minutes when we look at the formulas to understand how these two things are related to each other, okay? The radius is from the center out, and the diameter is from one end or one point through the center to the other point on the opposite side, okay? Kind of like spokes in a wheel. Now, having said all of that, what we're looking at with these first couple of problems is they're giving us a circle, and it says this circle has a diameter of 48 kilometers. What that means is that if I draw a line through the middle of the circle, and the line touches this edge, goes through the middle and touches this edge, that whole line is 48 kilometers. And the question is, what is the radius? So remember, diameter is 2 times the radius. Radius is 1/2 of the diameter. So all I would need to do is take 1/2 of that 48, I'll change colors on you here, take 1/2 of that 48, and that would be my radius, which would be 24. And that is how easy it is to find the radius when you have the diameter, okay? And now there's going to be some that will be a little bit more complicated, so don't get excited. But all you have to do when you have the diameter is just half it, and you'll be able to figure out the radius. So now let's look at number 2. Number 2 does the opposite. It gives us the radius, which is from the center out to one edge. And it tells us that the radius is 10. So remember again that radius is 1/2 of the diameter, and diameter is 2 times radius. So if we're trying to find out what the diameter is, It goes through that circle again, through that center, and it's going to be twice the radius. So our diameter for this one would be 20. Okay? Easy peasy. Now it gets complicated. That's the way they work things. They start off easy and then they get complicated. Number 3 asks you to find the value of that symbol to the hundredths place. What that means is they want to know if you understand that this symbol here, which is called pi, is equal to 3.14. This is going to be important to us in just a few minutes when we look at our formula sheet. And I'm going to go ahead and write the formulas on here for you, and then we'll talk about them a little bit. So let me write them. Circumference is equal to 2 pi r. R stands for our radius. And area is equal to pi r squared. R again stands for our radius, okay? So I want you to understand that we're going to have to know a little bit about this symbol pi and how it works, okay? And I'm going to come back to this in just a minute with these two formulas, but right now I want to just talk about pi for a second, okay? So with pi, you're going to be asked to do one of two things, and you're not going to have to guess because they're going to tell you what's going on with it. They're going to tell you what is going on with it in the question itself. So what I mean by that is they're going to tell you in a problem, let pi equal 3.14. And if they do that in the problem, they want you to multiply it out. And if they don't, then you're going to just use the symbol pi, okay? I'm going to come back to this in just a second. I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, and then I'm going to put it all together, and it'll make sense to you, I promise. So let's go back to that formula I just gave you that said circumference is 2 pi radius, okay? Let's say we have a circle and the radius is 10, okay? If we have a circle and the radius, or the r, is equal to 10, there are two different ways we can find the answer to what the circumference is. The first way is to take 2 and the symbol and multiply it by the radius. Now, when we do this, when we're taking 2 and the symbol, we're basically just going to multiply the 2 times 10, and we're going to get 20 pi. And we're going to keep that symbol in as part of the answer. And you're going to know to do this because the answers that they give you on the test will look like this. They'll have that little symbol written next to them, okay? So that's going to tell you to leave the symbol in when you're writing your answer. Now, on the other hand, they may give you a question. I'm just going to abbreviate right here. Here's our formula. This formula you do not have to memorize. It is on the formula sheet, so you don't have to memorize it at all, okay? They may give you a problem that says let pi equal 3.14, and then they give you a circle with a radius of 10. We're going to do the exact same thing that we just did. The only thing that we're going to do different is we are going to, I'm going to use a different color, I decided, make it a little bit easier to see. Okay. The only thing that we're going to do different is we are going to substitute this number here in place of the symbol. So here's how it's going to look when we're solving it. 2, then we're going to take that number, 3.14, and we're going to multiply that by our radius, which is 10, okay? Now we just have a straight multiplication problem, and all you have to do is multiply it straight out, and I'm not going to do it in my head. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in the calculator, and it tells me that my answer is 62.8, okay? In the problem itself, they will tell you if they want you to multiply it out or not, okay? So you don't have to do any guesswork. You don't have to worry about whether you're going to have to multiply that out or not. And they're also going to tell you what pi is equal to. So you're not going to have to memorize that number either. So there are a few things that the test will do that's going to be helpful for you, and that's one of the things, okay? So does that make sense? You got any questions on this part so far? Okay. I'm going to talk now for just a minute about what that word was that I just wrote up there. If you have your formula sheet in front of you, I am going to, let me show you the formula sheet, because you may not have it in front of you, and I just want to show you what it looks like so you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I am going to go to my math practice HiSET test, and the first page of the HiSET practice test is always the formula sheet, okay? So this is what I'm talking about right here. Where I want you to focus your attention, let me see if I can get this where I can draw on the screen for you. Yep, there it is. Okay. Hold on. Trying to approve it so I can write on the screen. And I don't know if you can see the screen because now I can't see it. Okay. Can y'all see the formula sheet? It just disappeared on my screen. Sarah, can you see the formula sheet? If you can, put a thumbs up so I can see.
No, ma'am.
Okay, I can't see it either. I'm not sure what it just did, so I'm going to try this again. It was on my screen and then it disappeared from my screen. Okay, now it's back on my screen, so maybe it'll stay up there for us to look at. Okay, now it's on there. I see what I did wrong. Okay, so what I want you to bring your attention to is this part right here, okay? Whenever we were talking about rectangles, we were talking about perimeter. And when we talked about perimeter, we talked about it like it was a fence that goes around the outside edges, okay? We talked about it being a rectangle. We also talked about a square. And then the other day, we did a weird figure called a trapezoid. And with each one of those, what perimeter meant was the outside edges. Circumference is the exact same thing as perimeter, except instead of dealing with a square or a rectangle or a four-sided figure, now we're just dealing with a circle, okay? So it's like building a circular fence. It's no different from perimeter. And so that's why these two are listed there together, because they basically are the same thing. The only difference about them is that circumference deals with circle and perimeter deals with squares and rectangles. Now, I want to draw your attention to this part right here. We've talked about parallelograms. and we've talked about trapezoids. But if you look at this one right here, this is our circle area formula. So what that means is if I have a circle and I'm wanting to, let's say I have a circle yard, my yard is shaped like a circle, and I want to fill the whole yard in with a certain type of grass or something. I would need to know the area. So it works exactly the same way as the area of a rectangle, where it's that whole space on the inside, or the area of a square, which is the whole space on the side. Did you have a question, Sarah?
No, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Your microphone was on, so I wasn't sure. Okay, so that is what we're looking at whenever we're talking about these two formulas. And again, you're not going to have to memorize any of this stuff. It's going to be on the formula sheet for you. So you don't have to worry about trying to remember any of these formulas. You just need to know how they work. And that's what we're going to go over now. So let me stop sharing this one. I'm going to go back to my whiteboard now, hopefully. Okay. So let me go to my worksheet. It says number 4 wants me to find the circumference whose diameter of a circle whose diameter is 19. So the diameter is the line that goes all the way straight through, okay? And that diameter is 19. And what they want us to do now is find the circumference. So I'm going to look back at my formula sheet, and I'm going to see that circumference, I'm going to abbreviate again. Circumference is 2 pi radius, okay? So to be able to figure out let me use a little r here, since I've been using a little r. Okay, so to be able to figure out what the radius is of this particular circle, I need to look and see what information they gave me. Since they gave me the diameter, I know that diameter is 2 times the radius, and radius is half of the diameter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that 19 and I'm going to split it in half, and that's going to give me my radius, okay? And I'm going to need that to be able to fit it in this space right here, okay? So when I divide 19 by 2, I end up with 9.5, okay? Because 9 plus 9 gives me 18, and then those 2 halves give me one more for 19. So my radius is going to be 8.5. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that 8.5 and I'm going to substitute it into that formula. Okay, now when I substitute it into the formula, I want you to notice something here. The formula says 2 times this number times pi. And 2 times this number is the same thing as 19. So my circumference is going to be 19 pi. Okay, this is a little trick where you're probably asking yourself, why did we half it if we were just going to go back and double it? Because that's what the formula says to do. But once you get really comfortable with these and you realize that 2 times the radius is the same thing as the diameter, then this becomes a lot easier. So if they give me the diameter of 19, I can immediately go straight to my answer of 19 pi, okay? Circles are not too difficult to deal with once you understand the language and you understand this concept that I have written right down here at the bottom, okay? This is going to be the important thing to know whenever you're dealing with circles, is how the diameter and the radius are related to each other. And once you figure that out, then it becomes easier. Now, let me show you. I do not know what answer they put on the answer sheet, but I'm guessing that since they wanted you to know what pi was, they probably multiplied it out. So I'm going to give you the answer multiplied out also. 19 times pi, if I let pi be 3.14. Okay? So I can either keep the answer as a symbol, or I can multiply it out and get a number. Okay? So these answers are both correct. Now, on the test, they are not going to give you both of those answers in one problem. Instead, the answers are going to look like this: 19 pi, 8 pi, 10 pi, or they're going to look like this: okay? So they're either going to give you the answers with the symbol in it, like what I have right here, or they're going to give you the answers where it's been multiplied out. And if they want you to multiply it out, the directions will say, let pi equal 3.14. So there's no guesswork on this. With the circles, it's all about this relationship right here and being able to figure out that diameter is 2 times radius, and radius is the same thing as half diameter. It's just a lot of big words is all it is. So we have a circle now for number 5 whose radius is 2.5. Okay? The radius is 2.5. I'm going to put our formulas down here at the bottom again. Diameter is 2 times the radius. Radius is 1/2 the diameter. So if the diameter is 2 times the radius, then that tells me a little bit about what I can do with this particular circle. Now I'm going to go to my formula sheet, and I'm going to see that circumference is 2 pi r. So now all I'm going to do is substitute this number for r. And I'm going to have 2 pi times 2 times 5. I'm sorry, times 2.5. I misspoke there. Now all I have to do is multiply these two together, and 2.5 times 2 is going to give me 5. So my answer is going to be 5 pi. And if they want me to multiply it out, they'll tell me as part of the question, and multiplying this out is 15.7. Okay? Now on your calculator, there is a pi button. Let me find a calculator to show you real quick. This is the TI-30XS. I just need a picture of it. Let's see if we can see it pretty good in this picture. If you want to buy one from Amazon, I wanted this to load really clearly, and it's not loading very clearly, so let me find a different one. Here we go. Okay, let's just look at this picture that I have over here on the right-hand side. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, hopefully. Nope, not working. Here we go. Yeah, it's still not working. Here we go. Now you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so on your calculator, if you'll look Let me get this set up where I can write on the screen. It's going to disappear for a second if it does what it did a second ago, and then it should be right back. Okay, so what you see on the screen is our calculator, the way that you would normally see things. And this button right here that I'm circling is our Pi button, okay? If you want to use that button to help you with these problems, what it's going to do, I just did a couple of them real quick to see how it would work. And if I put in 2, then the pi symbol, then my radius, let's say my radius was 5, the answer it's going to give me is going to be 10 pi, okay? So it's not going to multiply it out for you, but what it will do is it will leave that symbol on there so that if you're working these problems, you can put the numbers in exactly the way the formula is, and that'll let you be able to see that symbol in there, okay? It's not entirely helpful because you don't really need that button on the calculator. It doesn't do a lot for us, but it is there. So if you want to get some practice with it when we get back in the classroom, it's there for you to be able to use. So let me go back to my whiteboard. Okay. So in other words, on the calculator, I would put in the number 2, the button pi, and the number 2.5, and the answer it would give me would be just like this. It would say 5 pi. Okay, so like I said, not completely helpful, but it's not too bad either. Okay, number 6. Can't draw, hold on. Number 6 says the radius is 7. The radius is the one that starts at the middle and goes out to the edge, okay? If we're trying to find the circumference, again, circumference is 2 pi r. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take this radius here and we're going to multiply it by 2. So when we multiply the 2 times the 7, we get 14 pi. So 14, good job, Shanterica. So 14 pi is our answer. And if they want you to multiply it out, it would be 43.96, okay, just by multiplying it out. So that is circumference, and it is pretty simple. All you have to do is basically understand what the diameter is, what it means, and then just plug it in to this formula that you have here, okay? Now, the one that gets a little more complicated is area. So let me talk about the area formula for a minute. Let me write it back down for you. Let me find it. The area formula is on the sheet, like I said earlier, under the word area. And it has something a little bit different in it that I really don't know if we've talked about yet. I've talked about it some in my classes, but I haven't really talked about it in these online sessions, so I don't know if you've seen it or not. And it's that little 2 at the top. That little 2 at the top is called an exponent. And what it means is that we're going to take our base, whatever our base is, and we're going to multiply it by itself, okay? So if you ever see an x squared, that means we're going to take x and multiply it by itself. If you see a 3 squared, that means we're going to take 3 and multiply it by itself, okay? So what that square means is that we're going to take whatever our base is and multiply it by itself, however many times this number tells you, okay? So later on, when we get into the algebra, you're going to see stuff like 4 to the third. And what that means is 4 times 4 times 4, okay? So that's how exponents work. This is the base, which tells you what this number is right here. And then this number tells you how many times you're going to multiply that base by itself, okay? So let's go back to our formula. Our formula is area equals pi r squared. So here's how it's going to look when you have a problem. We have a circle whose radius is a 7, okay? All we have to do now is the same thing we did before. We're going to take pi, we're going to put our 7 in there, and we're going to square it. And when we square the 7, what we have is 7 times 7, which is 49, and then we're going to keep that pi symbol, okay? So the answer to this question, the area of this particular circle, is 49 pi. Now, if they want you to multiply it out, they'll tell you in the question, let pi equal 3.14. And if they do that, then we're going to multiply it out, and our answer is going to be 153.86, okay? So that's how area works, and that's what this little 2 means. It means we're taking that base and multiplying it by itself 2 times, okay? There is a button on your calculator that's the squared button. I don't like it. I don't ever use it. It's just a little bit confusing to me. So if you just remember that we're taking the base and multiplying it by itself, then you won't have any problems with this part. Okay, the next one says we have a circle whose diameter, that's a really weird circle, a diameter is 18 yards. So remember, the diameter goes all the way through the middle, okay? Remember that the radius is half of the diameter. Diameter is 2 times the radius. So to be able to use this area formula, I can't use the diameter. I have to use the radius. So I'm going to take half of that diameter, and that's what I'm going to use in place of my letter R, okay? So the way this is going to work is half of it is 9. So my new formula is going to be 2 pi. Oh gosh, I wrote the wrong formula up here, you guys. Are you really confused now? I'm so sorry. It is pi r squared. Okay. Sorry about that. I still need the radius. So here is what my formula is going to look like. Pi 9 squared, or pi times 9 times 9, which is 81 pi. Okay? If they want me to multiply it out, the answer, when I let pi equal 3.14, the answer is going to be 254.34 if it's multiplied out all the way. And again, they're going to tell you in the problem if they want you to multiply it out or not. Okay? Number 8 is a little bit weird because number 8 is dealing with a semicircle. And I don't really think there's going to be any of these on the test, but I'm going to show you how to do it anyway, just in case. So what a semicircle is it is what happens when I have a circle and I cut it in half and I'm only using half of the circle, okay? So I have a circle that's the purple figure, but the only part that I'm using is the black figure. That's what a semicircle is, okay? So if you can look at this and think your way through it, you can figure this out. Oops, we're going to pretend like that little shark fin is not there. Okay. A semicircle is half of your full circle. Okay. What it tells us is that the radius is 5 centimeters. So that means that from this, from this little point here out, well, let me do it to the other side, is a 5, okay? So it tells us that our radius is 5. Our formula for area is going to give us the area of the whole entire circle. So the area formula is pi r squared. It will give us the formula or the area of the whole circle, and then we're going to take it and cut it in half to get the semicircle. So pi times the radius squared is pi 5 times 5, or pi 25, okay? That's for the whole entire thing, but we only want the black half. So we're going to divide it by 2, and we're going to get 12.5 pi as the answer there. Does that make sense what we did? Since we're only dealing with half of the circle, we're only going to use half of the area. And if they want us to multiply it out, we'll take our 12.5, multiply it by 3.14.
I don't beat.
What'd you say?
No, ma'am. I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. And we'll have 39.25 whenever we multiply it out, okay? There are some circles on the new practice test. There's a problem that asks you to find the circumference of a circle, and there's also a problem that asks you to find the area of a circle. So this is something that they're definitely going to have on the test. So what I want you to do is get familiar with that vocabulary that we just talked about, where you understand the difference between the diameter and the radius. I want you to understand that you don't have to be scared of the pi symbol, because what it's going to do is it will tell you what that symbol is equal to, or you'll just leave the symbol as part of your answer. And then the rest of it is just determining the difference between area and circumference. And they're going to tell you which formula to use. They're going to say, find the circumference of the circle, and you'll go to your formula sheet and find that circumference formula and use it. Or they'll tell you to find the area of the circle. The only other thing that you need to be aware of is that r with the little 2. What that means is it's the radius times itself. So whatever the radius is, you take it and multiply it by itself. So these few pieces of information here are enough to get you correct answers on any of those circle problems. Okay. Let me see what else I have for us to go over. Where is my calendar? So what I wanted to look at today that we're putting off until tomorrow is volume. So tomorrow we'll do page 42, which deals with volume. And next week we'll be back in the classroom. And like I've been saying, once we get back to the classroom, I'm going to continue to do these WebEx meetings so that you'll be able to participate in everything that we have going on in class. So I'm going to stop my recording.